The truth is, focus isn't just a mental habit. It's a form of creation. Every time you give your attention to something, you're not just observing it, you're feeding it. You're giving it energy. And that energy doesn't vanish. It builds. It expands. It shapes how you think, how you feel, and what you begin to expect from the world. Most people walk around completely unaware of this. They think they're just noticing things. But what they don't realize is that they're turning those things into their personal reality. You focus on chaos, life starts to feel chaotic. You fixate on being misunderstood, and suddenly every interaction becomes proof that you are. But here's where it flips. The power of focus works both ways. If you start locking in on clarity, growth, calm, your nervous system adjusts. Your thoughts start cooperating with that energy, and the life around you, slowly but consistently, begins to reflect it back. So ask yourself, honestly, not philosophically, but right now, what do I keep focusing on? What emotional tone am I living in? Not just today, but over and over again. Because whether you know it or not, your focus is training your mind, and your mind is shaping your world. Most people believe that their focus is simply a reaction to life. Something happens, they pay attention. Something goes wrong, they worry. But that's the trap, because the moment you start reacting to everything outside of you, you hand over the steering wheel. You let the external world decide how you feel, what you think, and ultimately, who you become. But here's the truth no one teaches you early enough. Focus is not a reaction, it's a responsibility. If you don't choose what to focus on, the world will choose for you. Algorithms will choose for you. Your past will choose for you. Your pain, your ego, your insecurities, they'll step in loud and uninvited, and they'll anchor your mind to things that pull you further from the life you actually want. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to focus on what's missing, on what they said, on what you could have done differently? That's because your brain is wired to scan for threats, and if you're not deliberate, it will keep you locked in a loop of problems, always looking for what's wrong. But when you start noticing what you're repeatedly giving your attention to, you gain power. You begin to see the pattern, and that pattern is everything. Because the more you think a certain thought, the more your brain hardwires that pathway. It becomes your lens. And soon, you're no longer seeing things clearly. You're seeing life through a distorted filter that you've unknowingly created. This is why some people stay stuck for years. Not because they don't have options, not because they aren't capable, but because they've been hypnotized by their own focus. And the worst part, they don't even realize it. Every belief you hold started with focus, not truth, not proof, just repetition. You focused on something long enough, an insecurity, a label, a story, and eventually your mind accepted it as reality. And that's the most dangerous part. We don't question the thoughts that feel familiar. We just live inside them. You weren't born thinking you weren't good enough. You weren't born thinking you'll never make it, or that love always ends in pain. Somewhere along the way, you focused too long on one moment, one failure, one rejection, one betrayal, and your brain built a castle around it. It said, let's protect ourselves by expecting this again. And just like that, your nervous system decided that disappointment is safer than hope. But you're not broken. You're focused. You're not lost. You're just paying attention to the wrong guide. Think about it. A person obsessed with what's wrong in the world will find something wrong everywhere. A person who's focused on being disrespected will interpret everything through that lens. Meanwhile, someone else in the same situation will feel calm, grounded, untouched. Not because life is easier for them, but because their focus isn't trying to protect a wound. It's aligned with the future. And this shift changes everything. When you stop feeding energy to what's draining you, your reality starts to rebuild itself. The same situation begins to feel different. The people around you start responding to you differently. Why? Because energy doesn't lie. You're no longer showing up from fear, from desperation, from please see me. You're showing up from clarity, from alignment, from peace. And here's the thing nobody tells you. Peace is magnetic. People can feel when you're not controlled by your environment anymore, when your focus isn't hijacked by every little distraction. And once that becomes your baseline, life stops feeling like a series of problems. and starts becoming a place you can actually create from. You've heard the phrase, energy flows where attention goes, right? But what if I told you, attention doesn't just shape your energy, it filters your entire world. Your brain isn't built to show you reality. It's built to show you what you already believe is important. Right now, in this very moment, there are thousands of things happening around you. Sounds, colors, feelings, signals, ideas, people. But you don't experience all of that. Your mind picks and chooses, like a spotlight in a dark room. It says, let me only show you what matches what you're already focused on. So if you've been unconsciously focused on fear, failure, or rejection, guess what your mind filters for? Exactly. More reasons to feel afraid, more evidence of why things won't work, more signals that you're not enough. Not because they're true, but because your brain is obsessed with proving itself right. And that's the problem. Most people don't realize that their life isn't being shaped by truth. It's being shaped by the lens they never cleaned. But here's where the shift happens. Once you learn to redirect your focus, you begin to create a new filter, a new story, a new emotional baseline. And that change in focus doesn't just alter how you feel. It alters what you notice, what you attract, what you create, and what you allow into your space. Let me give you something real. If you've been focusing on the ways people have hurt you, abandoned you, or misunderstood you, you'll keep finding it, even in people who aren't trying to hurt you. You'll read between the lines. You'll assume motives. You'll push away what was meant to heal you, all because your focus got hijacked by your pain. But the moment you shift that attention, the moment you say, I'm not going to keep scanning the world for proof that I'm broken, you start training your brain to search for something different, something lighter, something aligned. And no, this isn't about ignoring your pain. It's about finally choosing what you want to build instead of recycling what already destroyed you. You reclaim your attention, you reclaim your power, because your focus is the blueprint of your reality. Change what you focus on, and everything starts to change with it. Most people don't realize they're addicted to their own mental noise. It's not just about what you focus on. It's about how often you let yourself sit in silence without trying to solve something. Your focus becomes reactive when your mind is always trying to fix, solve, analyze, or prepare for the worst. And we've been taught to see that as being responsible. But in reality, it's just mental survival mode. It's like trying to clean your house by running around in circles with a broom, never stopping, never looking up, just sweeping imaginary dust because it feels like doing something. And this is where we lose the deeper part of life. Because when your focus is always running toward the next problem, you miss the moments in between, the peace in between, the clarity that only shows up when you're not scanning for what's wrong. Let me be clear. Focus isn't just about what you choose to give attention to. It's also about what you're willing to let go of. Because sometimes the reason your life feels heavy isn't because of the amount of work you have to do. It's because you're carrying too many tabs open in your mind, old conversations you keep replaying, situations you think you need to control, future events you've already overthought 10 different ways. It's clutter, mental, emotional clutter, and it's eating up the exact focus you need to feel present, powerful, and peaceful. You don't need to do more. You need to focus better. And sometimes that means stepping away from the things that feel familiar, even if they're toxic. It means interrupting the loop that says, but what if they, or, but I still need to. You don't need to chase closure. You don't need to finish every argument in your head. You don't need to prepare for every possible disaster. You need to free up space. Because without space, your focus has nowhere to land. And without focus, your life can't grow. It can only repeat. There's something most people don't realize until they've lived the same year 5 times in a row. Your life isn't stuck. Your focus is. See, nothing around you actually has to change for your experience to change. And that's the part that confuses people. They think they need to move cities, quit their job, end every relationship, or disappear for 6 months just to feel peace. But most of the time, the real shift doesn't come from running away. It comes from seeing clearly. And you can't see clearly when your focus is clouded with assumptions, fears, comparisons, and inner noise. Think about this. You've probably scrolled through your feed and suddenly felt bad about your own life. Not because of anything real, but because your focus latched onto someone's highlight reel, then told your nervous system, You're behind. 10 seconds. That's all it took. Your focus doesn't just influence your emotions, it hijacks them if you're not careful. And here's the deeper truth. What you constantly focus on becomes your identity. If you're always focusing on how you've been wronged, you start to become the person who's always been wronged. If you're constantly focusing on self-improvement through shame, you start to believe you're always broken. If your focus is consumed by chasing approval, you lose sight of who you are without applause. But the beautiful part, that identity, that loop, isn't fixed. You can rewire it, and it doesn't take a miracle. It just takes consistency. The moment you stop letting your focus be dragged by every passing thought and start directing it, even in small ways, you begin to create space inside. Not fake positivity, not denial, just space. And inside that space, something new has room to grow. Not the same recycled story, not the same self-criticism hiding under motivation, but you, unfiltered, unpressured, unbothered. You don't need to force your life into shape. You just need to stop pouring energy into what's keeping it stuck. So the real question is, and only you can answer it, what have you been focusing on that no longer deserves your attention? Because once you see it, you can release it. And when you do, everything that's been trying to align with a real you finally gets a chance to arrive. Let's get brutally honest for a second. You can read every book, listen to every podcast, do the journaling, the meditations, the inner work. But if your focus stays on the same emotional frequency, nothing will change. Because focus is like a seed, and every time you water it, it grows roots. So ask yourself, what have I been unknowingly watering? Is it your fears, your anger, your guilt, your need to be liked, your obsession with proving someone wrong? See, the scary thing about focus is that it doesn't care whether what you're focusing on is good for you or not. It just expands whatever you give it. Your brain doesn't stop and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't keep looping this thought. That's your job. That's your awareness. That's your responsibility now. And this is where most people miss the mark. They wait to feel better before they shift their focus, but that's not how it works. Your emotions are just messengers. They reflect what you've been giving your attention to. So if you want to change the way you feel, you have to change what you're feeding. This isn't about just think positive. It's about being intentional, being sovereign. It's about noticing when your focus is being pulled by your wounds, your habits, or your fears, and then gently redirecting it toward your values, your vision, and your truth. Because the life you want won't be built on scattered focus. It won't be built on survival thoughts. It'll be built when you decide, not once, but over and over, that you're done giving your power to things that don't serve where you're going. And maybe today's the day you draw the line. Not dramatically, not with fireworks, but quietly, calmly, powerfully. A quiet moment where you say, I'm done fueling the life I don't want. And you turn that focus back inward, not to escape the world, but to reshape it, starting from within. And here's the part most people overlook. Your focus isn't just shaping your mindset, it's shaping your nervous system, your relationships, your entire sense of reality. Let that sink in for a moment, because once you truly understand this, not just as a concept, but as a lived experience, you'll realize that you don't need to control everything around you. You just need to control where your attention lives. When your focus is grounded, calm, and anchored in the present, the chaos around you can still exist, but it no longer has the power to move you the same way. You stop flinching at every little shift in energy. You stop reacting to things that don't need your reaction. You start choosing your responses, not out of fear, but out of clarity. And this doesn't mean you never struggle again, but it does mean you stop struggling with things that aren't even yours. You stop carrying pain that doesn't belong to you. You stop borrowing thoughts that were planted by people who don't even understand you. You reclaim your space, you reclaim your energy, and when your energy isn't scattered anymore, you become magnetic. People start feeling different around you, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're finally in alignment. You're not leaking focus into every criticism, every fear, every comparison. You're present, you're locked in, you're alive, and this version of you, this is the one the world was waiting for. If this message found you at the right time, Leave a comment below. Tell me, what's one thing you've been giving too much focus to? And what are you choosing instead? Let's make that shift together. And if you want to keep growing, evolving, and staying aligned, subscribe. This journey's just getting started.